everyone, Joshua Myers here, and welcome back to my Star Wars franchise review series. And today I'm going to be reviewing the second film in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, which is Star Wars Episode VIII, The Last Jedi, from 2017.
Let the past die. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
Darkness rises, and light to meet it.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Come on! This is not going to go the way you think.
Star Wars The Last Jedi stars Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, and is directed by Rian Johnson. The plot of Star Wars The Last Jedi is that the Star Wars saga continues as the heroes of The Force Awakens joins galactic legends in an epic adventure unlocking mysteries of the Force and shocking revelations of the past. Now, before I get on to my positives and negatives with this movie, let me just talk about a little bit, first of all, the hype surrounding this movie before it came out, and also, just, this is really a controversial movie in the Star Wars fan base, Like, there was a lot of hype for this movie, especially because The Force Awakens was actually really good, and there was a lot of hype for that movie. Like, there was a lot of hype for The Force Awakens, and it turned out it was really good. A lot of people liked it. It seemed to please a lot of Star Wars fans. So, when they heard that they were going to do an eighth one, people were excited. And although J.J. Abrams didn't come back for this one, had Rian Johnson come in, which I've heard Rian Johnson has done some good stuff before, which I never seen them. I never seen any of his other films. So maybe they are good. I don't know. I haven't checked them out. And the trailers came out. Everybody was, a lot of people were excited for this one. Like, there was only one worry, though, from a lot of people because a lot of people felt that The Force Awakens was practically a copy and paste of A New Hope. That some people were worried that that was going to be the case with The Last Jedi. And when the film came out, it's gotten mixed reception. There's some people out there who absolutely adore this movie. And there are some people out there who despise this film with a passion. And it's been kind of tearing the Star Wars fan base. Really. Like, this is probably the most divisive film in the franchise. I've seen, how much bad stuff some of these people have done. As far as, some of the fans have done to each other. Like, some people who hate The Last Jedi, I've seen them go online and start mocking people who do like it. But then I've also seen people who, do genuinely like The Last Jedi go to people who hate it, basically calling them, sexist, practically calling them a misogynist just for not liking The Last Jedi. And so many other stuff too, and, it's like, how did this happen? Honestly, I think this is probably the worst we've seen as far as, the state of the Star Wars fan base. Even worse than the prequels. Yeah. I'd say that as far as, the state of the fan base itself, and that all drives from this movie. And I just recently rewatched it, and here are my thoughts on it. So what are my positives with The Last Jedi? Honestly, for me, I will say, there are some points in this movie where I'm like, okay, Rian Johnson could have been an awesome director for this. There's some stuff I do like about this movie, and one of the things is, I do like his direction for the most part. As far as, directing the camera and that, and, just the overall look of the film actually is, this is probably the best looking film in the series, actually. It's the one that looks like it has the highest budget of them all. And honestly, it looks the most cinematic of them, actually. And it's just visually interesting. There's a lot of visually interesting stuff in this. In fact, there's certain stuff, without getting into spoilers, there's certain stuff in this movie I actually do appreciate as a film director, myself. Like, there's some subtle stuff, like, in this movie that, you know, kind of hints to what's going on in the current moment, you know, but it doesn't show you what's going on until a little bit later. And that's ingenious, actually. I fucking love that, actually. And after rewatching it, I did notice some of that stuff. And yeah, it's really good, actually. Now and then, the stuff with, you know, on the planet Octo, which is where the first Jedi temple was ever built, and that, you know, the stuff with, you know, Luke, Rey, Kylo Ren. I actually did love all that stuff, actually. And, you know, like, okay, there's some issues I had with that stuff, but I'll get to that in my negatives. For the most part, it's really interesting, and I felt like it did a lot of lore building, and I think it did it pretty well. You know, even made some connections to the prequels, which I think, you know, and I don't think it was out of spite of the prequels or anything, because honestly, they didn't say anything that wasn't true about, you know, the Jedi and that in the prequels. So I did appreciate that stuff. There's just so much good stuff with that whole thing, you know, and I really did like it, at least somewhat of the idea of, you know, like, basically, there's this force connection between, like, force bonding between Kylo Ren and Rey. I did like that stuff. You know, even to the point where it almost seems like, you know, they could bring a bit of the environment with them for this. That stuff is awesome. It's never been done in a Star Wars movie, or anything else, really. I can't even think of a Star Wars TV show or nothing like that where it's been done before like that. And I think Rian Johnson handled that stuff well. Also, the effects are really good in this too, actually. Like, I literally can't tell what is digital and what's not, actually. And honestly, the pacing isn't that bad either, actually. There's parts where it does drag, which again, I'll get to my negatives. But, yeah, actually. The pacing is really good. This movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes long, and it felt like that for the most part. Also, the music by John Williams, actually, I will say is pretty good for the most part. There's some issues I have, again, you know, but I think overall the music is serviceable. Also, Andy Serkis as Snoke, I think he did a really good job, actually. I really do think he did. I think he did a good job, you know, the motion capture. Honestly, when rewatching this, I couldn't even tell it was motion capture or anything. I honestly thought that was the guy in a practical suit and that. Which I think they could have done. They could have done Snoke in practical makeup and everything. Oh, and Puppet Yoda. Yeah, they bring back Puppet Yoda as a Force Ghost, and that was awesome, actually. You know, and honestly, I do like the lesson it tries to give in this movie, you know, that basically, you know, failure could be the greatest teacher in that, and basically trying to say that, you know, learn from your mistakes, you know, and also pass on what you've learned to others so that they don't end up making the same mistakes as you did. You know, that stuff is actually really, like, that's a really good message, actually. You know, because I do know that definitely failure could be, you know, you could learn from your mistakes and that, and, you know, I've been doing that with a lot of things I've been doing in my life. So, that is a good lesson. That's a good moral lesson to teach. What are my negatives with The Last Jedi? Honestly, for me, a lot of it is how, because there's some times, you know, like, for example, certain stuff that I feel like it's kind of a bit too much harshness on the legacy of the original legacy, like, of the legacy characters, like, you know, when, you know, I get Luke's, like, Luke is, like, I get Luke in this movie is supposed to be bitter and that because of, you know, and feel responsible for what he, you know, for, in a lot of ways, creating Kylo Ren, you know, been, like, having been so turned to the dark side and that, and, you know, I get that. I don't mind that idea. I do like that idea. there's certain moments throughout this that kind of does, in my opinion, feel a little bit like a spit to the face of the character. Like, for example, when, like at the end of The Force Awakens, you see, Rey meeting Luke and that, and, Rey holding out his lightsaber like that, his old lightsaber, and we see that happen, and he takes a hold of it and just looks at it, and what does he do? And this was just only, well, and what does he do? And then just walks off. And that was meant to be kind of for humor purposes, but I think it didn't work in this case. I think all it just did really was spit in the face of the character. I would much prefer maybe he'd be like, how did you get this? And then maybe be like, I'm sorry, but no thank you. And just, hand it back to Rey and then walk off. Maybe something like that. That would have been much more powerful in my opinion. And I think it still would fit with, how the character of Luke has been portrayed. Something like that. I think that would have worked a lot better. And may have not pissed so many people off. So, also, there are certain scenes that I think have been cut out. Like, for example, when Luke is, seeing what he does, his daily routine on the island and that, and he goes up to this weird-looking ass creature and is like draining, milking, milk from the creature's teeth and that, and just, and all that stuff, and it's like, I feel like that was a bit of a spit in the face of the character. They should have cut that scene out, I think. There was one scene, actually, that they cut out that I think they could have added instead of that scene, and apparently there was a scene in which, it's on the deleted scenes, where I think it was after he was supposed to hear that Han has passed away, and he kind of is, like, starting to process it and everything, and, feels all sad and then starts to mourn Han and that. I would have loved that scene to be in the movie instead of the whole teat milk drinking scene, Also, let's talk about the, B-plot, with, Finn, Rose, and the whole Canto Bight stuff. Honestly, for me, all that stuff, the whole Canto Bight sequence, while I do think the Casino Planet stuff does look cool, they do nothing really that interesting with the story in that. In fact, the whole, so they're, Finn and Rose tried to go and, find this master code breaker and that, but they couldn't, they didn't end up getting that code breaker. Instead, they found another one, and just all, at the end of the day, this whole subplot was completely and utterly pointless. You did not need this in the film. Knowing that, I'm sure probably the actress who plays Rose was trying her best, but I'm sorry, she just wasn't that great of an actress. Plus, also for John Boyega's Finn, although I think he was doing a good job in it, I'm sorry, they did not make his character interesting in this one, and they did not evolve his character or anything, and honestly, I'm kind of, disappointed by that, because I really did like the character of Finn in The Force Awakens. I thought he was really interesting, and plus John Boyega I thought was a good actor for him, but in this, it was almost kind of a spit in the face to the character of Finn, actually, by doing that. Also, Benicio del Toro is DJ, who is that other codebreaker they find. I didn't really necessarily find him, he wasn't bad. I've seen worse actors, but I don't know. I don't know what it is about with him. Also, there's another plot of, with the Resistance fleet and that trying to get away from you know, the First Order in that, and you have Laura Dern as Admiral Holdo, and that, which honestly, I was excited to hear Laura Dern was going to be in this movie. You know, which the only other film I saw her in were the Jurassic Park films, and honestly, I think she could be a really good actress. And in this respect, she actually was a good actress for what she was having to do, like what she was told to do. It's just the fact that I didn't really like her character. I felt like her character was such a bitch, actually, very unlikable. And not only that, like, there were so many stupid decisions, like her withholding information, you know, just to teach Poe Dameron a lesson, you know, and that, and basically, like, while at the same time, like, because it's like you're causing the risk of the entire Resistance fleet. You're causing you're risking the lives of a lot of people just so you can teach Poe Dameron a lesson. Seriously, they could have done without that, and because of those two subplots, the pacing does kind of drag a bit, you know, especially with the Canto Bight subplot. Now, I will say, they do all converge at the end. Also, John Williams' music. Honestly, the sequel trilogy music, well, I think it's serviceable. It's not the best work the man has done, actually. You know, I think, like, because he really went all out in the prequel trilogy, you know, with his music and that. You know, I think he improved on some things with his music in the prequel trilogy, and I thought he was going to do that with the sequel trilogy, but it seemed like it got a downgrade. In fact, the sequel trilogy music is probably my least favorite out of the, you know, music throughout the Star Wars franchise, at least of the, you know, scores that John Williams did. So with that said, I'm going to give Star Wars The Last Jedi a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for me, there are some really good stuff in this, actually. You know, after because here's the thing, I was somebody who was, after the first few times watching it, you know, hated this movie. I hated it when I saw it in the theaters. And, you know, after rewatching it, because I wanted to come in for this review with an open mind. You know, forget everything that I've heard about, you know, from people and that, and just come at it with an open mind. And there were some stuff, a lot more stuff I noticed I did like. You know? But the stuff that is really bad, and honestly, and, you know, it keeps it from being, you know, like 5 out of 5 or whatever, but, you know, it's actually a little bit better than okay. It's a little bit better than okay. You know, this movie is a little bit better than okay. And, you know, just this whole Star Wars fan base division and that, which I get it. I get why some people hate this movie. I can also understand why some people love this movie. But the way these people seem to treat other people's opinions, you know, and tastes and that, it's really distasteful to me. You know, and I will say, it's almost becoming to the point where it's no longer fun to be a Star Wars fan or discuss Star Wars or whatever because of stuff like this. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and the Force will be with you always.